All right, so we have our test level here. So if I press play, and in the last tutorial, we actually hooked up some lighting. You could see that this is kind of boring. I come around and I could jump off the side of this guy. We marked that mushroom is grounded, all that good stuff. But it's not really the thing that we want the most to mark this or give it much life, a little bit more life, is we want to give it some game audio. So maybe a background track. So let's go here to window and let's go down to general, and then we're going to go to, or sorry, asset store here. And let's grab some free audio from the asset store. All right, so here we are in the asset store. And down here at the bottom, you can see audio, or at the top, you can click on audio. And when you go over this, you can see sound effects. And we always want free. So there's free 225, and it says free casual game sound effects, all this stuff. And RPG essential sound effects. Let's listen to this and see what this gives us. So it has some 10 UI sounds, 8 magic sounds. Let's see what else. 8 buff sounds. Sounds good to me. And again, 10 battle sounds. So I'm going to hit add to my assets, and I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And now that I've signed in, I get this terms of service. I accept. And I'm going to go ahead and hit open in Unity because I already have our project open, which is our mushroom game. And it's fetching the assets. So you could see RPG essential sound effects here. I'm going to go ahead and hit download. And then once it's finished downloading, I'm going to go ahead and hit import. And I'm just going to grab all of that. I think it's great. Now, what we're going to do is whenever we set up audio inside of a game engine, we always want to create some sort of manager if it's going to manage more than one thing. So if we were just going to have it where our script played one sound or whatever, but what we want to do is control the volume in our game. We want to make this a little bit more polished. So inside of our CSS folder here, what we're going to do is look for our scripts folder, which is down here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little underscore in front of scripts because I go in here so much, just so it moves it to the top of that scripts folder, the CSS folder, and it's easier for me to get to. Then I have art after, because those two folders are the ones that I access the most. So inside of managers here, we have a game manager, level manager, all that good stuff. I'm going to make a sound FX manager. So I'm going to right click in here, go to C# script, and type in sound FX manager. And we're eventually going to do, in future classes, we'll do namespaces, but right now just keeping up with it underscore CSS. Now let's go ahead and open this script up. Next, I'm going to go ahead and copy this sound effects manager here before we jump into Writer. And I'm just going to create a, let's see, empty game object in here, and I'm going to call this sound effects manager. I'm going to attach that script onto there. All right, let's jump into Writer and work on this code. I want to be able to call this script from anywhere, so we're going to use a design pattern called a singleton. And all that looks like is we're grabbing the name, we're going to make a public static variable of the same name as our class, which if somebody grabs that, and generally it's just referred to as instance in all these tutorials. So whenever anybody wants to get access to this class, they type in the name of the class, dot, and then instance, and that'll give them access to all of the code inside of the script. And then we need to check, so I'm going to have an awake function. And if you remember, awake is called right off the bat, right when the, whatever this, like now that we have a sound effects game object in our scene, the awake method is called by itself. It doesn't need to be called like, like all the predefined functions. So this is similar to start. And what we want to check inside of here is if this instance is equal to null. That means we don't have an instance in our scene, or we haven't assigned it. We're just going to say the instance, that means that can access the script, is equal to this script. And this helps us to double check whether we have any, well, we want to make sure that if there is more than one instance, like we keep assigning it, that we also destroy it. but we'll worry about that later. And just to be clear, you only want to make a singleton if you know there's only going to be one of them in your scene ever. That's probably the best way to use a singleton. So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to go ahead and type out a method. And what this method is going to do is it's going to spawn the sound effect in our scene, and once it's done, it's going to destroy it. So we'll start off by making the method that just plays the sound effect. All right, so let's look at the basic building block of this method that's going to play the sound effects clip. So we're taking in an audio clip. So this is going to be the footstep or the attack or whatever. And then what we're going to do is we want to know the position in which the audio should play in our scene. It could be the place where we jump on our mushroom and our mushroom gets attacked. And then we want to know how loud that audio clip should play. So there's some code that we need to type out. So how are we going to spawn the object? How do we assign the audio clip? How do we play with assign the volume? And then when we play the sound, and we want to get the length of that clip and then destroy the clip after it's done playing. So there's a bunch of logic that we need to go through as we're creating this code. Okay, so let's create a game object up here. And this is going to give us access to a audio source. And if you're not sure what an audio source is, I'll show you in a second. So all audio, so this is essentially the method. So serialized field private audio source sound effects. So this is pretty easy to understand. All an audio source is inside of Unity. If we want to play audio from an object, so say we have our Sally character here, you would add a component called an audio source, and it looks like this. And you can see the components within the audio sources. It has an audio clip, and it has all of that stuff that we want to control: the volume, the priority. If we want it to loop, if we want it to play right away, all that stuff, play on awake. So that's what this audio source does. So I'm going to remove that component from Sally, but just showing you that's essentially what an audio source is. It has all of these properties that we want to control. So I'm going to go ahead and type out the code where we look for the audio source, and that's where we're going to spawn in our scene. All right, so this is what the code looks like that spawns our object. So we created an audio source variable here of type audio source. And this is storing the following information. What's interesting about this is kind of a twofer. It actually handles the spawning. So this will actually spawn this sound effects object in our scene at the position of whatever this transform is. So remember, this transform could be where, say I want it to be at the moment where my sword hits my enemy, or in our case, like our Sally jumps on our mushroom and it smushes the mushroom and it plays a sound. We want it to be at a position in our scene because audio is three-dimensional and we want to be able to control the position. And then we don't really care about the rotation because it radiates out in all directions. So, yeah. All right, so this new line of code, we're instantiating an audio source, but we don't know what audio clip we're going to play. And that's why we have this audio clip variable here, or data type in variable audio clip here. So what we're saying is audio source dot clip, and that's what's going to give us access to this slot. Actually, I should have just left audio source on here so we can keep referring back to it. But see this audio clip here? That's this line of code here is saying audio source, which is this thing here, dot clip, dot audio clip, right? Equals the audio clip that we're being passed in. And we want to play this sound effects clip for multiple actions. If we're walking, we want it to play footsteps, so we're going to be passing in those audio clips. We want to reuse the code as much as we can. And so that's what this is doing. So we're going to be calling this method at different times in order to pass in different audio. All right, so if we want to assign the volume, which is this here, we're just going to do audio source.volume. And again, if we go back in here and we look, you can see we have a volume parameter here. And there's some audio background music. Maybe we want it to be louder at certain parts, like maybe it goes higher when we're in an enemy attack. The audio goes, we have like the background music blaring. Maybe the picking up coins, because we do it a lot and it's repetitive, should be very soft and quiet. Otherwise it gets super annoying as you continue to pick up coins. So this is going to allow us to control the volume, and then we can pass in parameters for volume based on the object that we're doing or working on, picking up or interacting with. Right, so we have a new variable that we created called clip length here. and it equals audio source.clip.length. So you might be like, well, why do we need to know the length of our clip? One, and our next thing is we want to destroy the audio clip after it's done playing, right? That's one thing. Also, like some advanced stuff is, say you have a scene where after a dialogue, because dialogue is also audio, like a character says something, you want an animation to play, like an attack sequence or, some sort of cinematic to play. So it's good to know the length of your clip. And so this is essentially how you access, or when an audio source.clip, that audio clip, reaches the end of its length. And let's go ahead and type out the code to delete this. It's pretty easy. You kind of scroll up a little bit. And so what do we want to destroy? We want to destroy the audio source game object. And then this is, if you remember before, we've done destroy in other videos. You set a time here. You could do 1F, 2F, 3F. What we're going to do is we're going to destroy this audio clip when it reaches the end of the clip length. So pretty easy code. So let's save that. All right, so let's go ahead and we have our sound effects manager here. I'm going to create an empty object and just call it sound effect object. And this is going to be our test object. And just go ahead and add an audio source on here. And then in our sound effects manager, I can just grab this and just drop it inside of here. And I want to be able to reuse this multiple times. We have this audio, where we have audio clip and we can assign that. And I don't want it to play on awake. So we have let's see, I know we have player here, and I thought we had a prefabs folder. Maybe we did the other method, where we embed it. So let's just go in here and create a folder and then just call this audio. And then in this, I'll grab my sound effects object and drop it in there. And then now that I have that as a prefab, I can just reuse that over and over, and I'll drop that inside of here. And you see it says audio source here. It's just accessing the audio source on this object here. So let's test this out. Maybe we'll do, in our jump power up, let's go ahead and open up that script here. And let's add a couple variables. Now, remember, if we're going to call our sound effects manager here, we need a couple things. We need a sound effects object. We need the, the position, we kind of have that going on already. And we need the rotation. Or sorry, we need the float, the volume, the position, and we need the audio clip. So I'm going to go ahead and let's do that for our jump power up here. So the first thing we need to do is we need some sort of power up audio clip. So we're going to do serialized field here. And then inside of this, we're going to do private audio clip. And then we're just going to call this power up audio clip. Let's save that. And then if other compare object.player, we're going to go ahead and just do we're going to type in sound effects manager CSS, right? Dot instance. Remember we talked about how instance can be used to access everything in here. And then we want to call play sound effects clip. So I'm going to hit dot, and you should see play sound effects clip pop up as we start to type it out. And it did not, because I think it's, we got to make this public. Let's save that. There it is at the top. And we're getting an error because we need an audio clip, which is going to be this power up audio clip here. And then we need it has 3 parameters. Let me kind of see if I can bring those up. We need the audio clip, the position, and the volume in which we want to play this. So I'm going to go ahead and do power up audio clip. And then let's add the spawn transform. And then we could just write in the keyword transform. And if you recall, transform, because this clip is attached to our jump power up here, it's just going to grab all the parameters of the transform. It's just going to play it here. Now we could make a variable called volume, or we could just type in 1, and 1 is full volume. Now don't type this volume. See how I love this about Writer, how it'll actually tell you what it is, what the parameter is. But you don't have to type volume : that'll actually give you an error. So I'm going to go ahead and save that out. And then let's go back into our Unity scene, and on our each jump power up now, we need to, because we didn't, I think we created this as a prefab, right? Yeah, so it should update, but now you can see there's a power up audio clip. Go ahead and grab, let's see, here's our sound effects. Let's see. Is it extras? Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Leo Paz. Um, Go through here and maybe magical sound effects. See if there's a. I actually like that. Attack buff. That's the one that works for me. I'm going to grab this jump icon and I'm going to grab attack buff here and I'm going to drop it inside of here. Now notice on each one of these other icons, it doesn't show up in there, but because this is a prefab, if I go in here and I do overrides apply all, when I go into each one of these, notice it updated all of them with the same parameters. So when I press play now, I don't think you can hear it because I didn't set it to record in-game audio, so you're going to have to take my word for it. But I talked to this princess, and it played the audio. And it's a little loud on my end. So what I'm going to do is, there's a couple ways to do this. Like I said, you can create a new float value here. Just name this float. And then power up audio clip. Power up audio volume. And then make that equal to 0.5 for now. And then I'm going to grab this. You got to put an F there. Save this and go down here. And then instead of 1F, paste that in there and save it. Now, back in our scene, you can see you'll have power up audio volume here you can adjust. And now when I go inside of here, and I talk to the princess, come on, buddy. I got to be more patient with that enemy mushroom. Give him time to go to the edge before I head over there. There we go. Here's one. Here's two. So that audio is working, which is fantastic. And now all you have to do is the same thing as before. So say I want to, here's my princess mushroom. If I go inside of here, you have to go in and just do essentially the same thing. Power up, you have to grab really these two variables, save them, and then on your quest giver script, do the same thing as before, paste those out, and then just really call this same method here. So I'm going to hit Control A, or sorry, I think if I just hit Control C in front of the line, yeah, it copies the whole line. And then you just go to wherever there's an on trigger enter, and then you paste it here, and then you could say, save all of that out. And then in our quest giver script, you can see now we'll have a section just for audio. So you could see power up audio and then here. And so just go down and find a, I don't know, let's see. This sounds more like here. It sounds a little scary. It's here, let's see what revive does. Revive sounds exactly like when you talk to a princess, what it should do. So let's go ahead and select our princess here. And I'm going to grab Revive 03, drop that in. And now when I enter every time I enter the conversation with the princess, I hear that sound. There we go. And that's it for sound effects for this tutorial.